Well, a homeowner in Kitsilano made a remarkable find under his floor. Several years ago, while installing some new flooring, George Bryce found a trove of old silent film posters. And you just might have silent film posters under your floor as well. George has just made a deal to sell the posters to a New York dealer, and George is on the line now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
George, let's start at the beginning. When did you first find these posters?
Well, we had a hallway flooring replaced about 10 or 15 years ago, so we knew at the time that there were posters likely in all the rest of the floors of the house. So when it came time more recently for me to renovate two of our rooms and tear up the old fir floor that was quite badly damaged, I did it in full anticipation that I would find more posters under those floors, and that's exactly what I found.
How many posters did you find in all?
In total, we have 10 relatively intact posters and several small pieces of sort of unidentifiable material.
And what do you know about what they were doing under your floor?
According to the chaps who originally installed the floor about 15 years ago, movie companies would be distributing their silent movies with the accompanying posters across Canada, and Vancouver was one of the terminus. It was the end of the line, literally, probably for the film stock as well as for the posters. So rather than throwing these things out, I guess an entrepreneurial distributor got the idea of selling the posters to companies that installed floors at the time, and they would then take these posters and put them between the subfloor and, of course, the finished floor. And that was done to stop squeaking of the interface of the two floors.
Sort of muffle the sound.
Exactly.
Wow. And now you have said you found 10 large posters and some smaller ones.
Right.
Tell me what they look like.
Well, obviously they've got nail hole damage. They were originally nailed down under the floor. But aside from the damage from the nails, for the most part they're in good shape. What really struck me is the vividness of the color. I would have sort of half expected after being under a floor for 90 years that the color would have faded. But they actually came up remarkably bright, and the images themselves are very compelling. They really sort of convey the essence of the silent movie.
What are the images, George?
Well, they vary from scenes of sort of confrontation between two of the protagonists in the movie through to an image of a star, one of the stars of the movie, or a composite. They usually try to convey something about the particular movie.
And what are the names of these films?
They vary. We've got a couple from the same movie. One is called The Cleanup, and that was from 1923. A very strange movie called The Egg Crate Wallop from 1919, which I think is a reference to a scam operation. Hope Diamond Mystery from 1921. Quite a stunning poster called If Winter Comes. That was from a 1923 film. None of them go past 1923, so that sort of tells me our floor was probably installed in about 1924.
Well, you seem to have learned quite a bit about these posters and the films that are depicted on them. How did it feel to learn that there was movie history right under your floors?
Well, it was, again, not unexpected. It's quite delightful. I'm sort of eyeing the rest of the floors that we haven't yet done anything to. But there are posters probably in a lot of Vancouver houses in our area, especially if the houses were built just before the First World War and probably up until about 1930, because that was the period when these posters were used for that silencing interface. So many people in Vancouver may, in fact, have similar posters under their floorboards right now.
And what have you done with your posters?
We actually have sold them to a dealer, a reputable dealer in New York City. He's actually the co-author of several books on movie posters generally.
What does something like that go for?
Well, I'm not at liberty to discuss the final sale price, but on the retail market, if these were in turn refurbished, they have to, of course, be refurbished, cleaned up, and missing pieces replaced. The posters could run anywhere from $500 to several $1,000s per poster.
A lot of people are going to want to tear up their floor suddenly.
Well, if they do decide to do that, they should do it very carefully.
And so what should I look for if I'm thinking there might be some of these movie posters under my floors? I live in a 1930s house.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way I can tell?
Yeah, there are some ways. What you could do is if you have an unfinished basement, you can go down into your basement and look up, and you'll see the floorboards, or what they call the shiplap, which runs diagonally across the floor. And if you can find a hole or a crack in the shiplap, and if you look up very carefully, you may in fact see the linen backing of the old silent movie poster, because it would show through. If you don't have access to that, or say your ceiling is already covered over in your basement, in an area of your house that you're not terribly concerned about damaging slightly, you could cut out a little piece of the floor very carefully and lift it up and see if there is any movie poster under that area. And if there is, then it's likely throughout the rest of the house.
Well, isn't it nice to know that you might have a piece of movie magic in your home?
Yes, it is. Still got a few pieces to go.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your story, George.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care.
Righto. Bye-bye.
George Bryce lives in Kitsilano. 13 minutes.